Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video. I'm GetGoodGuy. The Battlefield 5 beta has ended, and I've had time to consider the impression that it provided, the impact that it's had, and what I would advise for those of you who are unsure about buying the final product. I'm going to give you as detailed an account as I can, so feel free to grab a drink and a snack, prop your feet up and get comfortable. If you have a short attention span, well, I have no idea why you clicked on the video, but you have been warned. I'm not going to rush through this. And this is not to say don't buy the game or I hate the game or anything like that. It's simply my explanation as to why I don't recommend pre-ordering if you haven't already and you're not certain about the game. I genuinely had more fun in the beta at the very end of its run, so there are signs that DICE are improving the product and or as you become more familiar with it, you enjoy it more. But I still didn't have as much fun as I would like. There's only so many times you can be shot by someone standing next to you because you couldn't hear the footsteps and you still have a good time, which you'll see a lot of in the footage. But anyway, so let's just get a few things out in the open straight away. If you're absolutely sold on pre-ordering and playing Battlefield 5 because you loved the beta, you always play Battlefield or whatever else, then go for it. More power to you. Also, if you don't want to hear a somewhat negative opinion on the Battlefield 5 beta and thus about the potential launch of the full release, then this isn't the video for you, but thanks for stopping by. But if you do want to hear an honest account, despite the position this may or may not put me in with regards to DICE who developed Battlefield, then great. Thanks for joining me here today. There are many other creators out there who will tell you all about the positives of the game for sure. They are obviously welcome to their opinion, and if they enjoy the game, then that's awesome. I truly wish I had enjoyed the beta. It's just that my opinion just doesn't seem to line up with many of theirs. I'm hearing from the big guys that the majority of people like the game and it's a vocal minority that don't. Ultimately, that's not my take, but I could of course be mistaken. All I know is that I'm seeing way more complaints than praise, and keep in mind that this and everything else I go on to say is from someone that has dearly enjoyed Battlefield 1 and has built their channel on it almost entirely up until recently. I have no reason to want this game to fail. I actually want it to flourish, but that doesn't mean I want people to potentially waste their money. And a final point of clarification, the contents of the beta that I'll be discussing are predominantly factual, but the impression they give and the potential outcome of them is opinion based. I don't advise you ever take the opinion of one individual as being correct, or automatically falling in line with your own outlook, not even mine. So be sure to do further research if you so wish, and again, if you liked the beta, then great, I'm very happy for you. I truly think there's promise on show for Battlefield 5 overall, but I have significant concerns at present. With all of that covered, let's get into this. And if you've seen any of my videos from the Battlefield 5 beta, then you'll probably have a good idea of how this is going to go. Let's be blunt from the outset and make things as clear as possible. My wholehearted advice as of right now, if you aren't sure about Battlefield 5, is don't pre-order it. Realistically, I couldn't advise anyone to pre-order anything anymore, but even more so, not Battlefield 5. Furthermore, I'd also wait until after its release to watch gameplay of it and canvass opinions of content creators that you trust. Obviously, if you have friends who have the game, get their opinions as well. That may actually be even more important. And if you're able to try the game somewhere else before you potentially buy it, that is the ultimate idea. This all just sounds like common sense stuff you should likely do for any game these days. And that's because it is. Publishers put huge pressure on developers now to create a product in the image that they desire, hitting key points of multiple revenue streams, and all within usually pretty tough deadlines. And this feeds directly into my concerns for Battlefield 5. The release date has already been pushed back once, by a month I believe. This indicates that extra time is needed to produce a serviceable product. And I'd say, and many agree, that the beta confirmed this pretty drastically. The huge negative being that I can't personally see how a November release date is going to provide enough opportunity for DICE to make this game what it should be for the release. This isn't new territory for them either. Battlefield 1 may have been my first foray into the Battlefield franchise, but that doesn't mean I didn't witness the catastrophic launch of Battlefield 4. Most of the gaming community was hard pressed to miss that train wreck. Now obviously they saved that game, big time in fact, and huge respect to them for managing that. But the reason we talk about that is because of just how big a turnaround it was. It wouldn't be sensible to assume that that kind of turnaround can be replicated on command. Plus, the Battlefield community on the whole isn't in the happiest of places right now, which kind of compounds the issue, because there's no guarantee that a large percentage percentage of the community is going to have the patience for DICE to fix this game if it releases in a shoddy state, which again it may not do, but the possibility is definitely there. And ultimately, I can't see the game being pushed back again, even if it needs to be, due to stock prices and things of that nature that we as consumers just don't consider. If they do end up doing that, then huge respect to them for it. I just can't see it. So why don't I think they have enough time currently? Well, the beta just had so many bugs and glitches, and not things you just pass off as funny or quirky. I'm talking about big stuff. An extremely temperamental squad system that some of the time wouldn't allow some players to be in squads. Other times it wouldn't allow friends to squad up together. Frankly, this ruined the experience for some players in a game that's heavily team play orientated, something I'll expand on a bit later. But let's keep going. I'll try to list these bugs quickly so this doesn't drag on too much. Frequently, players couldn't revive or be revived. There were issues with not being able to spawn in, issues with not being able to use certain weapons, issues with not being able to resupply allies, and issues with having the wrong weapon when finished reviving or being revived when the game actually let revives take place. These weren't things that happened to everyone all of the time, of course, but it was significant enough that word got around that it was taking place. This all left a very bitter taste in the mouth of many. Frankly, to some players, this was a beta of a game that's nowhere near finished. To others, it was a show of potential. And I understand the latter opinion, because the gunplay is very solid. This was the key strength of the beta. The gunplay is fun, intuitive, and rewarding, so hats off to them for that. Then, in terms of team play, if you're looking for a very team or squad orientated experience, probably with your friends, then this game might be right up your alley. They've achieved the alteration they were going for this iteration of the franchise. But for a solo player, in my opinion, and an opinion shared by a large amount of other solo players I've listened to, it's atrocious. This is obviously subject to change, but we don't know how much or what effect this will have, so once again, I can't advise you pre-order the game if this is important to you. So why did so many solo players struggle? Well, unless you played as the medic class, you couldn't fully heal after taking damage. This was a big departure from BF1. What you could do was gain a partial amount of health back. I believe it was 40 health out of 100, so if damage knocked you down to 10 health, you would eventually get back to 50 health at maximum. The only way to fully heal was to have a medic heal you, or to use one of the medic stations dotted around the map. This was combined with spawning with pretty small amounts of ammo, unless you played as the support class, and the only way to gain more was to receive more from a support, which barely ever happened. You could pick up a small amount from a dead player, or visit a supply station. These stations were also separate from the medic stations, so essentially, as a solo player, there was a lot of running around looking for supplies, or just being scared to push anything due to low health and or ammo. For many, this was boring and limiting. This system may well work in the full release, but I think it needs significant tweaking. Squad play obviously negated these issues somewhat, or actually to a pretty large extent from what I hear, but playing solo in random squads, it was dire. I firmly believe that rewarding teamwork is not the same as penalizing individuals. I've seen it argued that other successful team-focused games heavily punish players when team play isn't utilized well. Games such as Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege, Counter-Strike, etc. And I understand that argument. But do you know what the difference is between this product and the vast majority of other ones that people have mentioned? The entire premise. Those games are essentially competitive hero or arena shooters. 4v4, 6v6, whatever. So obviously team play is imperative and absolutely expected. It's a prerequisite of the experience. And do you know what that isn't like? Battlefield. An experience where you can potentially have 64 players in a game. There are so many variables involved in that being so reliant on those around you can be an absolute nightmare. And do you know what you don't usually have to do in the games that people are using as examples? Run over to an arbitrary location to get health and ammunition, because the game either isn't built that way or you receive it from those around you. Because team play, the thing that again those games are almost totally built around because it all fits together well. And this is without mentioning that those games are usually formed differently in terms of round duration and how many there are, etc, etc. Overall though, this health and ammo system also made it feel like the game played incredibly slowly to me. But let's move on, and we'll move to what is my biggest concern. Visibility in the Battlefield 5 beta was the worst of any AAA title I have experienced relative to the year it was produced. Yes, to stress again, this was a beta, but also we're very close to the full release. And I legitimately found it so hard to see the enemy that it ruined my experience. My eyes were strained, and I honestly felt like I was getting a headache on multiple occasions. I know DICE have said they're working on this issue, but it needs to be improved a huge amount. I honestly can't imagine playing a game in that state for any long period of time. Plus, on console, some of the graphical aspects were poor. It may not be the same on PC, of course, but on Xbox One, I felt like it was a straight downgrade from BF1. Plus, as usual, the contrast was all over the place. place. Brights were too bright and darks were too dark. I'm also not alone in this train of thought. I absolutely accept that this isn't the case for everybody, but I posted a poll on my channel a few days back. It now has over 700 votes, with 68% saying they have significant visibility issues in the beta. And I know this isn't really being covered very much by other creators, maybe because the vast majority of them are on PC, and of course some of them just won't have these visibility issues anyway, but I can't stress enough how massive a problem I believe this to be. Throw on top of this that 3D spotting has been removed, which I don't personally like. I never had a problem with spotting, but that doesn't make me the authority on whether Battlefield should or shouldn't have spotting. It's down to personal preference. Just like those who say it shouldn't be in the game aren't able to dictate to you what you should or shouldn't like. But what I can say is that without spotting, you absolutely need the game to be designed in a way that allows the vast majority of players to see enemies clearly. That should be a given, and I can't see how that can be argued with. So this needs a fix, and a big one, and I firmly believe it needs to be in a really good place on release day, otherwise there's going to be a lot of negativity. So basically, with all of that said, I can't see how Battlefield 5 will release in a decent state. It may well do, and I certainly hope it will, but with those doubts in place, a pre-order would be quite a risk. We have no idea how this will all turn out, and we already know that a load of features that have been hyped up now won't actually be ready for the full release. Dragging downed allies, battle royale, etc, etc. Plus, features such as rented servers won't be ready at launch either. This indicates how far behind DICE actually are. It may not be their fault, or it may be their fault, or the truth could lie somewhere in between. But whatever the truth is, it doesn't change the reality of the situation. And so that is why I can't recommend a pre-order for Battlefield 5. I truly hope this game turns out well, and it still could. But currently, there are concerns from my perspective, and we'll just have to wait and see. I haven't gone into the issues with authenticity and such like, because I feel like there's absolutely been enough coverage of that already. But essentially those issues just pile on top of all the ones I've listed today. So what do you think of the potential outlook for Battlefield 5? Have you pre-ordered? Did you play the beta? Are you excited or worried? Let me know in the comments below. Now let's go over to the board of awesome for the epic people who support the channel on Patreon. That Patreon support allows me to do this every day and spend this much time on each video. So thanks to everybody on here. If you want to join them on the board of awesome, the link to the Patreon page is in the description. And with that all said, I'm GetGoodGuy, and I'll see you next time. Laters.